This is a lecture from Open Tuition. For the free lecture notes that go with this podcast, please visit opentuition.com. In this session, we're going to look at how we actually value inventory. And there are two rules that you need to learn. The first one is that the basic rule about inventory valuation, we always value at the lower of cost and what we call net realizable value. Now, by that, I'll be a little bit more detailed in a moment, but cost is basically what we've paid for the item. Net realizable value is essentially the selling price. And so, of course, normally, any goods you buy in order to sell, you're normally hoping to sell at a higher price. The lower of the two will be cost. We normally value our inventory at cost. And the reason is that even though we're certain we're going to be able to sell it at a profit, we mustn't actually take that profit until we've actually made the sale. It's only when you've actually made the sale that you know you've made the profit. If you haven't made the sale, we can't take the profit, we value at cost. There could, however, be occasions when the selling price is lower than the cost. Maybe the item's damaged, for instance. You paid $20, it's damaged, you expect you'll only be able to sell it for $10. Well, if you think the selling price is going to be lower and therefore you will make a loss on it, we should take the loss immediately. We should value at the lower of the two. So that's the basic rule, always value at the lower of cost and net realizable value. What we mean by, more strictly by the two, cost is the amount spent so far. Now what that means, if we're buying goods from a supplier, well, the cost is whatever we paid. But it could be that we're making our own inventory. Maybe we've got a factory that makes desks and then sells them. But it could be at the end of the year we've got some desks that are perhaps only half finished. Well, the cost of those is whatever we've spent so far. Net realizable value, well, it is basically the final selling price. But, being slightly more precise, it's the final selling price less all extra costs there will be before we sell it. And there are two types of costs that could be. One is simply selling costs. That perhaps we intend to sell something for $20. However, when we sell it, we have to pack it, and that costs $2. Well, the net realizable value would be the $20 we sell it for less the $2 selling costs. The other cost that could be is the cost of finishing. I said before that maybe we make desks and sell them. It could be we've some desks that are half finished at the moment. Well, the cost is how much we've already spent. Maybe we intend to sell the desk for $50, but it'll cost us an extra $20 to actually finish it. So again, the net value, net realizable value, the selling price $50 less the extra $20 we expect to finish. Let's see what we mean. Look at example 4 and do it with me. A company has closing inventory as follows, with 3 products, A, B and C. We're told how many units there are of each, and we're given the cost to date, the expected further cost to be incurred, and the final selling price. Well, let's do it. First of all, we have to look at each product individually. So product A, we want to value at the lower of cost and net realizable value. Well, the cost is how much we spent so far. And so per unit, here the cost is 10. Net realizable value is the final selling price less any extra costs that are going to be. So here the final selling price is 15. However, before we sell it, we've got extra costs of 3, and therefore the net realizable value is 12. The rule is that we value at the lower of the two. The lower of the two, it'll be $10 per unit. And how many units? With 100 units. So they'll be valued in total at $1,000. What about B? The cost per unit is 12. Net realizable value, 16 selling price less 5 costs is 11. The lower of the two here is 11 with 200 units, and so they'll be valued at 2,200 in total. Similarly, and finally C. Cost to date 6, net realizable value 11 minus 4 is 7. The lower of the two is 6, 150 units, total 900. And so the total inventory valuation is 4,100. That's what will appear in the balance sheet, the income statement, as the closing inventory. All right, well, I think that should be nice and straightforward. However, there is one more problem. We'll look at that in the next section, but how do we decide what the cost actually is?